Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas has issued an official statement in which it mourns the assassination by the Zionist entity of the head of its political bureau and commander of Al-Aqsa Flood Operation, Yahya Sinwar. The World Health Organization WHO has called for the immediate delivery of humanitarian aid to children in Gaza. And Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi has chaired a government meeting devoted to the preliminary draft relating to the protection of the elderly and non-salaried doctoral holders. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First in our news, the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas has issued an official statement in which it mourns the assassination by the Zionist entity of the head of its political bureau and commander of the Al-Aqsa Flood Operation, Yahya Sinwar, alias Abu Ibrahim. The statement of Hamas said that with all the meanings of pride, dignity and honor, the Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas announces to the Palestinian people, to the entire nation and to the free people of the world the death of one of the noblest and bravest men, a man who dedicated his life for Palestine and gave his soul for the sake of Allah on the path of its liberation. Yahya Sinwar fell martyr while defending the land of Palestine and its sanctities and inspiring the spirit of steadfastness, patience, and resistance. A report published by the New York Times has denounced the use of Palestinian civilians as human shield by the Zionist occupation army in their ongoing aggression against the Gaza Strip. The New York Times reported that at least 11 Zionist military units in 5 towns in the Palestinian enclave have forced Palestinian civilians to perform tasks such as searching for explosives or exploring tunnels from the inside to protect the soldiers from any danger. The American Daily quoted a 17-year-old boy who said that soldiers had abducted him from his family and forced him to walk handcuffed in front of them in search of explosives, releasing him. The World Health Organization WHO has called for the immediate delivery of humanitarian aid to children in Gaza. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said that almost everyone in the Gaza Strip is dying of hunger and that the situation is inhumane. In a message on the X platform, Ghebreyesus explained that recent assessments indicate that almost everyone in Gaza is starving. He called for the immediate delivery of humanitarian aid to children suffering from acute malnutrition and in need of urgent treatment. Ghebreyesus renewed his call for a ceasefire, saying that the best remedy is peace. And the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has said that the forced displacements by the Zionist occupation army against a large number of Palestinians in the north of the Gaza Strip constitutes a war crime. In a statement to journalists in New York, Turk underlined that human rights must be at the heart of all consultations at the United Nations, particularly in light of the developments in the Middle East. The conclusions of the latest UN IPC report are more than horrific, he said, adding that the risk of famine remains throughout the Gaza Strip, saying the world cannot allow this to happen. The Zionist entity is obliged to facilitate the flow of food, medical supplies, and humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip in line with international humanitarian law, but unfortunately the reality on the ground shows that aid to Gaza is not arriving, he deplored. And a food security assessment carried out by UN agencies and NGOs in the Gaza Strip predicts that 1.95 million Palestinians, or 91% of the enclave's population, will face severe food insecurity as a result of the Zionist genocidal war that has been going on since October 7, 2023. Said Bougazi has more details in this report.
The assessment of the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification (IPC) was carried out by experts from 16 United Nations agencies and non-governmental organizations. The assessment states that the war that has lasted for more than a year in Gaza has destroyed livelihoods, reduced food production, and severely restricted commercial and humanitarian supply lines. It warns that the risk of famine in Gaza will persist throughout unless the Zionist war ends and more humanitarian aid reaches families. It is also predicted that 1.95 million people, that is to say 91% of the population, will face severe food insecurity. The integrated classification, which uses global scientific standards, indicates that 345,000 people will face catastrophic levels of hunger, stage 5, and that 876,000 people will suffer from emergency levels of hunger, stage 4 of the classification. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed his concern at the report's conclusions that widespread displacement and restrictions on the flow of humanitarian aid mean that the population of Gaza is facing catastrophic levels of hunger. He warned that famine is looming on the horizon, which is intolerable, stressing the need to open the crossing points to Gaza immediately, remove bureaucratic obstacles, and restore law and order so that UN agencies can provide vital humanitarian aid.
And the Italian Ministry of Defense has declared that the United Nations interim force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, is essential to ending the escalating violence in the region and must be strengthened, not withdrawn. The Zionist entity must understand that these UN soldiers are there to help maintain peace and promote regional stability, said Italy's Defense Minister Guido Crosetto. He said that the resolution establishing UNIFIL's mandate was last revised in 2006 and needed to be updated. UNIFIL is a complex mission with a mandate that is difficult to implement, inadequate rules of engagement, and forces that are not equipped for the current conflict, he said, calling on the United Nations to strengthen UNIFIL's capacities, notably by creating a rapid deployment force to improve its freedom of movement. On Thursday, the European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, assured that UNIFIL would stay and do its job, adding that the Zionist attacks on UNIFIL meant that the UN system is under attack. To the domestic file now, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has received the congratulations of the President of the Republic of Uruguay, Luis Lacalle, on the occasion of his re-election for a second presidential term, said a press release from the Presidency of the Republic. Please accept, Your Excellency, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, the congratulations of the government of the Republic of Uruguay, as well as my sincere wishes for success in the accomplishment of your missions, read the congratulatory message. The President of the Republic of Argentina, Javier Milei, has also congratulated the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, on his re-election for a second term. In his congratulatory message, the Argentine president reaffirmed his government's commitment to continue strengthening the privileged relations between Algeria and Argentina, as well as its commitment to deepen and diversify areas of cooperation for the good and the prosperity of both peoples. And the Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi has chaired a meeting of the government devoted to the finalization of the examining of the preliminary draft law relating to the protection of the elderly and a draft executive decree establishing the terms of exercise by non-salaried doctoral holders of research activities within the framework of contractual relations, said a press release from the Prime Minister's office. Saad Boughazi reports again.
The government meeting examined the preliminary draft law amending and supplementing the law relating to the protection of the elderly, containing provisions aimed at strengthening the social protection of this category, promoting its integration, and diversifying the mechanisms for its care in accordance with the constitutional approach and the relevant international reference frameworks, notably the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. On the other hand, and in implementation of the directives of the President of the Republic relating to the strengthening of the economic role of the university and the enshrinement of its openness to the economic environment, the government examined a draft executive decree establishing the terms of exercise by non-salaried doctoral holders of research activities within the framework of contractual relations in order to promote the quality of research, notably in priority priority areas such as food security, health security, water security, and cyber security. Finally, the government heard communications on the progress of the project to build the motorway linking the port of Jenjen to the east-west motorway, as well as the project to build the Jidra Dam in the province of Souq Ahras, which should be completed by the end of the current year, as well as sports facilities and structures.
Now, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, General Saeed Shingriha, has co-chaired in Nouakchott, Mauritania, with Army Corps General Al-Mukhtar Boli Shaban, head of the General Staff of the Mauritanian Armies, the signing ceremony of a memorandum of cooperation between the two countries' armies, according to a statement by the Department of National Defense. On the third day of his official visit to the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, at the invitation of his Mauritanian counterpart, Army Corps General Al-Mukhtar Boli Shaban, the INP Chief of Staff paid a visit to the College of Defense of the G5 Sahel and the Polytechnic Complex at Nouakchott. The statement said the visit to these two training centers was an opportunity for the Army General and the delegation accompanying him to inquire about the Mauritanian experience in the field of high-level military and scientific training, added the same source. Finance Minister Aziz Faid has reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to strengthen Arab-African cooperation and integration in order to achieve common economic development goals, focusing efforts on major development projects, including their financing, notably in the fields of energy, transport, and telecommunications. Speaking at the fifth meeting of the Board of Directors of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BARIA, which coincided with the 50th anniversary of its creation, Aziz Faid underlined that Algeria was determined to strengthen Arab-African cooperation and integration through concrete projects aimed at improving infrastructure, strengthening productive capacities, and promoting social and economic development on the African continent. And on the instructions of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the Minister of War Veterans and Right Holders, Laïd Rabiga, has handed over an invitation to the President of the Sahrawi Republic, Brahim Ghali, to attend the celebrations of the 70th anniversary of the Glorious Liberation War, according to a ministry statement. And Algeria has reiterated from New York its support for the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination and the UN efforts to find a political solution to the Western Sahara question during two consecutive rights of reply exercised by its permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama. Reacting to the fallacious narrative of the Moroccan delegation, Ammar Benjama pointed out in a right of reply on Wednesday that the Moroccan representative did not once mention the word Western Sahara in his speech, despite the fact he pointed out that this is the issue on the agenda of the general debate of the UN Fourth Committee, which is responsible for special political questions and decolonization.
Je voudrais rappeler ici la décision définitive.
I would like to recall here the final and unappealable decision issued by the Court of Justice of the European Union on the case of Western Sahara and the trade deals of the European Union and Morocco in the field of fishing and agricultural products. I want to highlight two immutable bases enshrined by the decision of the EU Court of Justice. The territory of Western Sahara is distinct of that Morocco, and its status constitutes a decolonization issue.
Constitue une question de décolonisation.
Mr. Benjama underlined that the fate of the Sahrawi people can only be decided by them, as reaffirmed by UN relevant resolutions.
Le destin d'un peuple ne peut être décidé.
The fate of people can only be decided on by themselves, and this has been reaffirmed by resolutions 1514, 1541, and also 2625. The UN doctrine on decolonization has remained unchanged, and the modalities of implementing the right to self-determination should be determined by the Sahrawi people.
Doivent être déterminés par le peuple sahraoui.
Meanwhile, the Algerian ambassador reiterated Algeria's support to the efforts of the UN Secretary General and his personal representative, Staffan de Mistura, to find a political solution to the question of Western Sahara. With this last piece of news, we'll come to the end of this bulletin. Time now for weekly programs. We'll meet you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Welcome to your weekly program, Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Semeni.
There are a number of great destinations in Algeria just waiting to be discovered. A curious mixture of cultures and influences. Algeria has something interesting to see in just about every city. The country is also the first largest on the African continent, so you can be sure that there are plenty of towns and cities to visit. Let's visit Algeria's fascinating destinations, you and I together. Today is a special program where we are going to visit the Grand Mosque of Algiers. At present, the world's third largest mosque is erected in the Bay of Algiers. The mosque brings together various cultural and religious facilities. All main buildings in the mosque complex share a plinth that is in places up to 5 meters high. On this raised plateau, they are aligned from west to east in the direction of Mecca. Within the complex, they form two groups. In the west, the place for contemplation, with entrance arcades, cultural center, and minaret, and in the east, the place for congregation for up to 35,000 faithful. A spacious park leads from the mosque complex to the buildings in the south, namely the cultural center, the library, and the Imam School. The 265-meter height of the minaret and the length of the entire complex create a strong presence in the urban context over a wide area. Located only 6 kilometers east of the historical town center and not far from the airport, the mosque, hosting up to 120,000 visitors a day, will encourage the future development of the adjacent district of the city. The mosque complex is linked to the buildings in the south, namely the cultural center, the library, and the Imam School, by a spacious park. This landscaped outdoor area can house a large number of people and also offers a haven of tranquility. Through their alignment and height, the mosque ancillary buildings reference the adjoining residential buildings to the south. In the way they are configured, they serve as a buffer zone between the city and the mosque park. The prayer hall, or salle de prière, is a massive cube towering up to 45 meters and able to take up to 35,000 people. The interior, with its choice materials, restrained ornamentation, and indirect natural light, creates an impressive spatial experience. All the traditional religious elements, such as the Qibla wall, the mihrab, minbar, and Dikka, are integrated into a whole of modern aesthetics. Daylight from above steeps the hall in continually changing patterns of light and shadow. The interplay of light and shadow is creating a space with a sacred, if not mystical, character. The minaret rises up to some 265 meters and is thus on the same scale as major skyscrapers. It is the highest building in Africa. tower stories open out invitingly to the plaza and transport visitors by means panoramic elevators into those upper stories open to the public, in which the Museum of Islamic History is housed. Above it, there are 2 research areas open to academics only. The multi-layered facade is made up of an outer, ornamental skin made of prefabricated, perforated facade elements that protect the glass skin behind from direct solar radiation. The 4 access routes at the tower's corners are clad in bright natural stone. The top of the minaret will be transparent. The glass will cover the viewing platforms, one for visitors, the other for VIP guests. They offer a unique view over the city and the sea. The flora columns, the leitmotif for the design throughout the edifice, are flora pillars with protruding capitals in all areas of the ensemble. The flora columns not only blend harmoniously with the local palm vegetation, but combine load-bearing properties with other technical functions. They provide a surface acoustic equipment, while also integrating ventilation and drainage. The building complex forms a successful combination of Algerian tradition and the present. The mosque brings together the cultural wealth of Islam in Algeria with German excellence in architecture and engineering. Construction site work began at the building site for the large new mosque building in March 2012. To protect the approximately 150 by 150 meter large prayer hall from earthquakes, its supports are positioned only seismic isolators. To ensure the stability of the extremely slim and 265-meter high minaret, the base of the shaft is sunk approximately 15 meters into the ground. Structural devices of this magnitude as earthquake protection are unique. Second part of our weekly program, Destination Algeria, we focus on the Jama al-Jdid Mosque. At approximately 350 years old, the Jama al-Jdid Mosque is by no means a new religious site, as the name reflects. The Jama al-Jdid Mosque was constructed in 1660 during the Ottoman period, and even though its designation changed a few times over the centuries, and reconstruction was done to suit its new purposes, the building survived the French onslaught, which saw many historic buildings destroyed. As the ruling forces changed, so did the Jama al-Jdid Mosque, and is today an interesting structure that reflects numerous architectural styles. Some of the styles that can be seen in the architecture include Byzantine, Italian, Turkish, and Andalusian. Through years of remodeling, visitors will enjoy this spectacular attraction as it is educational, interesting, and breathtakingly beautiful. There are two entrances to the Jama al-Jdid Mosque, and visitors can look forward to exploring the ramparts, domes, vaults, columns, and wood finishes that have been designed to perfection. As the mosque was forced to take on the role of various religions, new designs and additions were made to accommodate each community, and so giving the mosque its unique look and atmosphere. At certain times, the mosque does not allow non-Muslims through its doors, but when it is open to the public, visitors are advised not to let opportunity pass them by to discover this magnificent historical wonder. Every church and mosque in Algeria has a story to tell, and the Jama' Jadid Mosque is a building that holds the secrets to the past and the good fortune to still be in existence for future generations to enjoy.
Hello and welcome to our